Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm outside this afternoon and I wanted to get a few jobs done in the garden, and I thought I would do another kind of garden with me vlog. You all seem to really enjoy seeing what I get up to in the garden, and they're also my favorite videos to watch. So I have just a few jobs that I want to get done today. One of them being is I'd like to sow some carrot seeds, and I also have some broad beans that I'm going to sow some seeds for. I'm going to be raising some seedlings of those. So I think I'm going to start with that first, then move down to plant some carrots, and then I'll see what else I get up to in the garden today. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me okay. It's a bit windy today. The broad beans that I'm going to be planting are called aqua dolce. They're really nice and big, and these are going to provide a lot of protein from the garden. I'm just going to be planting these in these pots here. Probably just do one per pot, except with the bigger pots like this one here, I'll do two. And then we can plant them out in the garden when they grow up as little seedlings. These take about 90 to 110 days till harvest, and they're great to sow in the ground now. I'm just looking through these seeds, and any that look a little bit funky, like with any spots or turning a different color, I won't plant these ones.
Just where it was needed, gleaming black as night, cloistered in injustice, dead in the eye of time. Nobody is losing. Faces merge and change, but your face remains the same. The swallows will be here by dawn, and when we're finally sober, they'll be gone. The trees will bloom and ice will melt. We'll always remember how it felt.
Right, so I'm down in the veggie patch now, and this is where I'm going to be putting my carrots. Kind of calling this like the market garden area, because I've laid it out like a market garden where I want to have like maximum production of food and flowers down in this area. So you'll see behind me I have a few rows of things already planted in the ground, but the first row that I planted with some dwarf peas that don't need to be staked. They're just dwarf little shelling peas, and not a lot of them germinated. I was pretty disappointed with the germination rate of those. So in between those, I'm going to be planting some carrots. I have a bag of all seasons carrots here. These are the ones that I always grow and I always have luck with them. The only thing, this seed packet is quite old, so carrot seeds can typically lose germination rate over time pretty quickly. So if these don't work out, then I have so many other packets of carrots that I can plant. I'm just trying to use up all of my seed packets. But everything else in this garden, like the cauliflower, the cabbages and the broccoli, are growing pretty well. We also planted all of those onions, and they are growing really well with all of this rain. I haven't had to water them or even come down and check on them really. So I'm really happy with how they are growing. I'm going to see how much I get done of planting these carrots before the rain comes again. I'm just going to be planting them in rows. Carrots really like to be kept moist, so there's a few different ways that you can ensure that they get a lot of moisture so they're able to germinate. They like a consistent moisture level. One way you can do that is by putting planks of wood over the top of the carrots. That just ensures that a lot of the moisture isn't going to evaporate. But for me right now, I don't really have that problem. There's so much rain and moisture in the air, and the soil is staying moist, so I'm hoping that these are going to germinate really quickly if these seeds are okay. But you can also just really lightly mist your carrots. I like to use the mist setting on the hose that I have, just because they're so fine. Anything else can really like dislodge the seeds out of the row that you've planted them. So that's how I usually like to water them, really lightly, but I'm not going to have to water them today, thankfully. So I'm just going to brush away some of this mulch and then make a few lines in the soil so that it makes it easier for when I harvest all the carrots all in one row, and I'll just have to go around some of the peas that I have in here. I also like to sow carrots fairly thickly, and that just means that I can come through and thin them later, just to make sure that we have a good germination rate for these. Then I'm just going to really lightly dust some of this mulch back on to make sure that all the moisture stays in. And I didn't think I would get all those carrots planted before the rain, because the rain's coming, so I'm going to hop inside and then I'll finish this off. Alright, I think it is safe again to be out here. I'm going to finish off these carrots, but before I do, in the break with the rain, I ended up sowing a few more seeds inside. And what I'm doing with these is actually succession sowing different varieties in the garden. And succession sowing was something that I wanted to briefly talk about what it is and why you should do it in your garden. It's basically selecting a few different varieties of vegetables or flowers, whatever you're trying to grow, that grow in a short amount of time until you harvest them. These are things like carrots, radishes, turnips, lettuce, pak choi, all of your winter Asian greens, things that have a really short lifespan until you take it out of the ground. So succession planting is selecting different varieties. I like to select my favorite varieties and then planting them every few weeks so that when you're harvesting them, you then have another crop that is coming through that will be ready to harvest in another few weeks. This is a great way to avoid getting a glut of one certain thing. I know we just don't have the storage capability in our household. We don't have extensive amounts of freezer space, nor do we have obviously a very dry climate to be able to store veggies. So I like to succession sow different things. And today I sowed some more kohlrabi and pak choi seeds. These two things grow really well in our climate and are great to get in the ground for autumn now. and the things that I know we regularly eat and I really like to grow in my backyard. So these are things that I'm going to be sowing probably every few weeks or so, maybe a little less with kohlrabi because that takes a little bit longer, and usually when we have a few it takes us a few weeks to get through them. But things like pak choi we use very regularly, as well as things like lettuce. So those are the things that I have succession sowed into just different pots, and then when they're ready and they have a few sets of true leaves, I'll plant them out in the garden wherever I have space, making sure to just move them around the garden. And I like to plant these in little grids. As you'll see, I've planted some pak choi and kohlrabi right next to each other in little grids, and this makes it easy to take them out and then replace something back into that little grid. Right, I'm going to get finishing planting these carrots while I have a break in the rain, and then I'll find something else to do in the garden probably.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go.
You can just sow them directly straight into the ground. You don't have to make rows like this, but what this does is just creates a little bit more of a crevice and little holes for the carrot seeds to just naturally fall into, and that's where they're more likely to have really good contact with the soil and have a higher germination rate. You might notice I have a really large tarp behind me. We are extending the garden, and I chat a lot more about this over on my Patreon channel, where I'm sharing a lot of the different parts of the garden and also just our broad overview goals of this property for the next few months. I will be sharing all of that on YouTube, but I do like to let everyone on Patreon know, and I've started uploading some content over there. So if you're ever interested in more content of the garden and you want to support me further, make sure to head over onto my Patreon channel, where we're creating a really awesome garden community that is safe and welcoming for everyone. So I think I might actually leave the video here. It's just a short little garden with me. It is just really muddy out here, and walking around, I'm just creating a mess right now. So I think I'm gonna leave a little bit more gardening until later in the week when it dries out. But I think this video might be going up on Easter Sunday. So happy Easter if it is something that you celebrate. I'm definitely going to be spending a lot of time with family that is visiting, and no doubt out in the garden as well. So I hope you're having a lovely holiday if you get the chance to, or if you don't celebrate it, then I just hope you're having a lovely day. So thank you so much for joining me in the garden this afternoon. Hopefully we get some carrots in. They take about 12 to 18 weeks or so, and hopefully the germination's okay, but I'll keep you updated with how they go, as I do with pretty much everything in the garden. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world. And until my next one, happy gardening everyone. Bye.
Reaching for the ground,